Dog sits years at the hospital door. When the reason is revealed, everyone cries. At the bustling entrance of St. Clair Hospital, amidst the constant flow of gurneys and the relentless sound of sirens, there is a silent presence that has become part of the landscape. Max, a brown-coated dog with deeply expressive eyes, has faithfully remained in the same spot for over 2 years. His gaze, a blend of hope and melancholy, follows every person who passes through the automatic doors of the emergency room. The hospital staff have grown accustomed to his constant presence. Some bring fresh water and kibble, others offer fleeting strokes, but Max maintains his vigilant posture, as if guarding a precious secret in his canine heart. His once shiny coat now shows signs of time, but his eyes retain the same sparkle of anticipation. The reason for his stay is in room 302. Ethan, his owner, a 28-year-old man, is battling a serious illness that keeps him hospitalized. The bond between them transcends the hospital walls, and Max, in his silent wisdom, patiently waits for the day his best friend will walk through those glass doors again. For Max, each dawn brought renewed hope. His days were marked by a sacred routine, the ritual of intently observing every face that crossed the hospital's doors. In his heart pulsed the certainty that Ethan would return, and this conviction manifested in every movement, every silent breath. On the coldest nights, when the biting wind blew through the hospital's external corridors, Max stood firm in his post. His body might tremble, but his determination remained unshaken. Night shift workers witnessed his devotion, admiring how he withstood the harsh weather without ever abandoning his vigil. There was something mystical about the way Max responded to the hospital's sounds. When ambulance sirens wailed, his ears perked up and his eyes gleamed with a special light, as if each arrival could bring the long-awaited reunion. His connection with Ethan was so deep that sometimes nurses swore they saw Max staring intently at the window of room 302, as if he could feel his owner's presence through the walls. The strength of this bond was evident in the small details, the way he gently accepted affection from passers-by but never let himself be carried away by them. How his eyes invariably turned toward the main entrance, holding the memory of the last moment he saw Ethan enter those doors. It was as if every minute of waiting was a testament of love, a silent demonstration of loyalty that defied any rational explanation. One autumn afternoon, Max's life began to change drastically. The air carried a different weight as dry leaves danced across the hospital floor. Doctors and nurses who once smiled as they passed him now exchanged worried glances and tense whispers. Something was wrong, and Max could feel it in every fiber of his being. Ethan's vital signs had started to fluctuate alarmingly. Room 302, once a place of hope, had become a scene of silent battle. Machines emitted sounds more frequently, and the medical team's comings and goings intensified. Max, with his heightened sensitivity, noticed every shift in the environment's energy. During the early hours, Max's low howls echoed through the hospital's empty corridors. It was as if he was chanting an ancient prayer, a plea that transcended human understanding. Some staff members swore that in those moments the corridor lights flickered softly, as if the universe itself was responding to his call. Ethan's declining health was reflected in Max's behavior. His once merely vigilant stance now carried a silent urgency. He began to refuse food, accepting only the bare minimum to stay conscious during his watch. His eyes, once bright with hope, now bore a shadow of worry that broke the hearts of those who looked at him. Nights grew longer and more solitary. The cold that seeped through the corridors felt sharper, and the shadows cast by the streetlights created unsettling shapes on the walls. Max remained still, like a living statue, guardian of an unspoken promise. In moments of particular distress, when the machines in room 302 sounded more insistent, Max pressed his body against the hospital's outer wall, as if trying to cross it to reach Ethan. His breathing became shallow, and small tremors ran through his body, physical manifestations of deep emotional pain. Doctors began discussing more aggressive treatment options, and the air thickened with the tension of these difficult decisions. Max sensed every nuance of the growing anxiety, every worried sigh, every doubtful glance exchanged among the professionals. The emotional abyss that opened before Max was deep and frightening. The possibility of losing Ethan hovered like a dark cloud, threatening to swallow all the hope he had cultivated during those years of waiting. Yet his loyalty remained unwavering, like a light refusing to dim even in the darkest gloom. It was in this moment of greatest vulnerability that Max demonstrated his true strength. His constant presence became a living reminder of the power of unconditional love, a pure manifestation of devotion that transcended the barriers between the animal and human worlds. Every breath he took was a silent declaration that no matter what happened, he would be there, guarding and protecting until the very last moment. As Dr. Thompson walked through the corridors of St. Clair Hospital, a whispered conversation caught everyone's attention. His tone was grave and laden with concern, revealing details about Ethan's critical condition that few had understood until then. The doctor, with an expression of marked fatigue on his face, spoke discreetly with a close family member. His words were like fragments of a sentence hanging between hope and despair. Max, with his extraordinary canine sensitivity, picked up every nuance of that conversation, his ears subtly moving to capture each sound. "The situation is really delicate," Dr. Thompson murmured. "The latest tests are not encouraging at all. We need to prepare the family for the worst-case scenario." The words fell like heavy stones in the environment, creating an almost palpable atmosphere of tension. Max, who until then had remained still in his usual spot, felt a different vibration running through his body. His eyes, once fixed on the hospital entrance, gained a depth that went beyond common human understanding. The urgency of the situation seemed to radiate from every corner of the corridor. Machines emitted steady sounds. Nurses moved with quick and discreet steps. And amidst that whirlwind of emotions, Max remained a silent and resilient presence. Something extraordinary happened at that moment. As Dr. Thompson continued his hushed conversation, Max slowly stood up as if an invisible force was propelling him. His muscles, once relaxed by the routine of waiting, were now tense and alert. Every movement he made translated a profound understanding that went beyond what humans could perceive. The urgency of the situation was not just medical, but something that transcended the limits of rationality. Max seemed to comprehend that the moment was crucial, that something definitive was about to happen. His connection with Ethan was so deep that every heartbeat of his friend seemed to echo in his own body. The sounds of the hospital, the machines, footsteps, whispers, seemed to merge into a symphony of anticipation. Max did not move only with his physical body, but with an energy emanating from his canine soul. His wait was no longer just hope, but a silent declaration of love and resilience. In that precise instant, it became evident to all who observed that Max was not simply a dog waiting for his owner. He was the guardian of a love story that defied all conventional understandings, a being capable of feeling and comprehending the delicate boundaries between life and death. The revelation of the reason for his wait was about to unfold, and everyone, doctors, nurses, patients, felt that something extraordinary was about to happen. The revelation about Max began to take unexpected turns when the nurses at St. Clair Hospital, moved by his unwavering persistence, decided to transform that silent wait into something more meaningful. The dog's loyalty would no longer go unnoticed. Nurse Anna, particularly touched by Max's constant presence, began to observe him with a different eye. He was not just an animal waiting, but a being that represented love in its purest and most conditional form. She started sharing his story with other staff members, patients, and visitors, turning Max from a solitary observer into a symbol of hope. Patients, especially the hospitalized children, began to notice Max. His deep eyes seemed to tell stories of love and resilience beyond words. Jake, a boy battling a serious illness, was one of the first to establish a special connection with the dog. When Max approached, something magical happened. The hospital environment, usually cold and impersonal, gained a layer of human warmth and compassion. The medical team, initially skeptical, began to realize that Max's presence had an almost therapeutic effect. He seemed to understand the suffering around him, offering a type of comfort that no medication could provide. His ability to be present, without judging or demanding, deeply touched everyone. Whispers about Max spread through the hospital corridors. Stories of his devotion began to circulate, transforming him from a mere lonely dog into an almost mythical figure. Each day of his wait was a silent lesson in love, loyalty, and hope. More than just revealing his story, Max was showing everyone a type of connection that transcended barriers between species. His presence began to inspire not only compassion, but a profound reflection on the meaning of true love and dedication. The looks that were once of curiosity or pity now became ones of admiration. Max was no longer just waiting. He was teaching, healing, and transforming lives around him, one silent gesture at a time. Max gradually discovered that his journey in the hospital would not be just a silent wait. The barren corridors and the constant sounds of machines began to reveal a new mission: to bring hope to other souls suffering there. The hospitalized children were the first to perceive the dog's special energy. Initially shy, Max began to wander the corridors with an almost ethereal softness, allowing young patients to pet him. Each touch was like a balm, each stroke restoring pieces of joy to wounded hearts. Jake, a 9-year-old boy fighting a serious illness, was the first to establish a deep connection with Max. In the loneliest moments of treatment, when the pain seemed unbearable, the dog would simply sit by his bed, offering a comforting silence that words could never achieve. Max's energy transformed the environments he passed through. Nurses noticed how his presence calmed agitated patients, as if he possessed a mystical gift to understand pains beyond the physical. His deep and compassionate eyes seemed to converse with every soul he met. In the hospital's internal gardens, Max developed an almost sacred routine. He walked slowly, sniffing every corner, as if performing a healing ritual. The plants seemed to bow as he passed, engaging in a silent dance of recognition. His interaction with patients was not just physical but energetic. Many reported feeling an inexplicable peace when the dog approached. It was as if Max carried a healing frequency, a field of energy that transcended traditional medical understanding. Anna, a sensitive nurse, began to observe these phenomena with growing admiration. She realized that Max was not just a therapy animal, but a being with an almost divine mission of emotional restoration. The children created stories about Max. They said he could sense pain even before the doctors diagnosed it. They whispered among themselves that the dog had special powers, capable of healing through unconditional love. In the most difficult moments when hope seemed scarce, Max appeared as a beacon. His light and determined presence reminded everyone that healing happens not only through medical procedures, but also through acts of connection and affection. Max's journey in the hospital made clear a profound truth. Love can be the most powerful medicine, and sometimes it manifests in the simplest and quietest gestures of a creature that simply chooses to be present. Within the hospital context, Anna emerged, a nurse carrying silent inner pain. Her hands, accustomed to caring for others, concealed deep insecurities about her own professional vocation. Working daily among white corridors and artificial breathing machines made her constantly question whether she was truly making a difference in those people's lives. Jake, a 9-year-old boy hospitalized with a serious illness, became a central figure in this secondary plot. Thin and wide-eyed, he represented human fragility mixed with surprising courage. His days in the hospital were marked by moments of intense loneliness, now interrupted by Max's comforting presence. The connection between Jake and the dog transcended any scientific explanation. When the boy felt most vulnerable, Max would simply approach, gently leaning against his bed as if he could absorb his pain through a silent touch. This camaraderie evoked a mix of surprise and admiration among the healthcare professionals. Anna observed this relationship with a blend of curiosity and renewed hope. Each interaction between Max and Jake seemed to restore something within herself, a nearly lost faith in the healing power that went beyond medical protocols. The moments when the dog remained by the boy's side were like a delicate choreography of affection and mutual understanding. Other hospital patients began to notice this special dynamic. Whispers of hope circulated among the beds, stories about the dog who seemed to have a special gift for comforting the most wounded souls. Max transformed the barren corridors into spaces of deep connection, where suffering found a moment of respite. For Jake, Max represented more than companionship. He was a friend who understood without needing words, a being who made him feel less alone amidst so many machines and medical procedures. In the toughest moments of his treatment, when the pain seemed unbearable, the dog's gentle touch was enough to envelop him in an inexplicable peace. Witnessing this transformation, Anna began to rediscover the meaning of her profession. Every glance exchanged between Max and Jake was a silent reminder that caring goes far beyond technical procedures. It's about connection, about allowing hope to find space even in the most challenging moments. In that hospital environment, marked by the sounds of machines and aseptic smells, Max and Jake created a small universe of affection. A sub-landscape where pain found comfort and loneliness was dispelled by the unconditional love of a dog who chose to be present. Their journey represented more than a simple friendship story. It was a powerful testament to how love can manifest in the most unexpected forms, restoring hope where there was once only the void of illness and suffering. As the emotional conflicts and dilemmas deepened, Max's story gained even deeper contours. His connection with Ethan transcended mere waiting, transforming into a complex journey of pain, hope, and resilience. While the hospital pulsed with its frantic routines, Max carried the weight of silent anguish. Days grew increasingly tense, and the uncertainty about Ethan's condition gnawed at the loyal companion's soul. His once firm and hopeful stance began to show signs of emotional wear. His eyes, once bright with expectation, now reflected a deep melancholy that touched everyone around him. Anna, the nurse closely following Max's journey, noticed how the dog struggled against his own limitations. Every sigh, every subtle movement, revealed a devastating internal conflict. How to keep waiting when everything seemed to indicate the opposite path. How to maintain hope in the face of such cruel reality. Max's dilemmas intertwined with Anna's personal challenges. She herself questioned her vocation, wondering if she was truly making a difference in patients' lives. Seeing that dog so determined to keep the flame of hope alive made her reflect on her own professional resilience. Jake, the young patient who had developed a special connection with Max, became a beacon of light in that atmosphere of uncertainty. Together, they shared moments of silent camaraderie, as if they could transcend pain through a communication that went beyond words. Max's anguish manifested in almost supernatural ways. In the hospital corridors, his body trembled subtly, as if absorbing the patient's pain. His ears caught the most imperceptible sounds, in a nearly medium-like harmony with the environment of suffering and hope. Nights became particularly challenging. While the hospital plunged into a quietness only interrupted by the sound of machines, Max fought against his own internal demons. Every noise, every movement seemed to carry a message about Ethan's state. Uncertainty was his greatest enemy. Was it possible to stay strong when everything indicated a tragic outcome? Max faced the deepest conflict, between unwavering hope and the cruel reality unfolding each moment. His pain was a mix of unconditional love and devastating fear. Max was not just a dog waiting for his owner, but a being capable of comprehending the deepest nuances of human suffering. His internal struggle represented much more than simple waiting. It was a silent declaration of love and resilience. At the center of this emotional whirlwind, Max remained steadfast, carrying the purest and most intense hope. His journey was a testament to the capacity of love that surpasses all barriers, challenging logic and touching the deepest emotional experience. Tension at St. Clair Hospital reached its peak when Ethan's health began to decline rapidly. Doctors moved with an urgency that overflowed with concern, and Max felt every nuance of this transformation deep within his being. The hospital corridors seemed to narrow with the gravity of the situation. Machines emitted intermittent sounds, creating an anguished symphony that echoed through the claustrophobic environments. Max, once so serene in his wait, began to exhibit an almost palpable restlessness. His posture shifted subtly, muscles tense, eyes fixed in the direction of room 302. Max looked like a guardian about to face the hardest of battles. Every movement translated a mix of hope and despair that transcended common human understanding. Ethan's transfer to the ICU marked a definitive moment. Doctors discussed in tense whispers, exchanging worried glances. Max, sensitive to every change in the environment, seemed to absorb the aura of anguish hovering in the air. Anna, the nurse closely following Max's journey, noticed how the dog reacted to each alteration. His ears moved microscopically, capturing sounds imperceptible to others. It was as if he could feel Ethan's very vital essence fighting the illness. Obstacles seemed to accumulate like heavy clouds. Every hour, the chances of recovery seemed more distant. However, Max remained steadfast in his determination. His presence, was a silent challenge against life's fragility, a mute declaration that true love overcomes any limit. In the most critical moments, Max began to develop an almost mystical energy. Nurses swore that when he approached the most fragile patients, an inexplicable sense of hope enveloped them. His brown fur seemed to radiate a subtle light of comfort and protection. Max's resilience became a living symbol of hope. Even when everything seemed lost, he remained. His wait was no longer just an act of love, but an almost supernatural force that defied the very natural order of things. Doctors discussed increasingly aggressive treatments. Max listened to every conversation, every technical discussion, as if he could understand the intricacies of Ethan's battle for life. His body, once relaxed, was now fully alert, a living extension of the hope that refused to surrender. In that critical moment, Max represented more than just a simple dog. He was the personification of loyalty, of unconditional love that defies medical logic, the very manifestation of a connection that went far beyond what the eyes could see or science could explain. The escalation of tension reached its most dramatic point. Max knew, in his deepest essence, that he was about to face the decisive moment of his waiting journey. His resilience would be tested in the next moments, revealing to the world the true meaning of love and dedication. Anna, an experienced nurse, was going about her daily routine when she discovered a surprising detail during an informal conversation with Ethan's family members. Amidst patient records and corridors filled with hospital machine sounds, she noticed something that would completely change the perspective on Max's presence in the hospital. While reviewing some old documents, Anna noticed notes from previous conversations between Ethan and his family. Among the records, an emotional request caught her attention. Ethan had always expressed the desire for Max to visit him during his treatment, believing that the dog's presence would be crucial for his recovery. The revelation was profound and carried an almost mystical energy. Ethan did not see Max merely as a pet, but as an extension of his own soul, a being capable of transcending the limits of traditional medical understanding. Every mention of the dog in his previous dialogues was filled with a love that surpassed any physical or emotional barrier. In the records, Ethan often described moments when he felt Max's presence even from a distance, as if an invisible connection kept them united. He detailed inexplicable sensations of comfort during the most difficult moments of his treatment, always associating these experiences with his canine companion's energy. Anna felt a chill run down her spine. That discovery was not just another bureaucratic detail, but a revelation that could completely change Ethan's treatment course. Max's determination to remain in the hospital now gained a much deeper meaning. The nurse now understood that the dog's wait was not simply a demonstration of animal loyalty, but a conscious and deliberate act of love. Max seemed to comprehend something that went beyond common human understanding, a spiritual connection that kept him there, vigilant and hopeful. Discreet tears began to well up in Anna's eyes. She realized that Max's story was not just about waiting, but about a sublime form of love that defied all scientific explanations. Her discovery promised to bring new hope to Ethan and potentially transform the hospital environment. The revelation that Ethan had always desired Max's presence created an atmosphere of expectation in the hospital corridors. Doctors and nurses began exchanging emotionally charged glances, understanding that perhaps healing could come from unexpected places through connections that transcend traditional medical logic. In that precise moment, Anna knew she was facing something extraordinary. Max's story would no longer be seen as a simple act of canine fidelity, but as a profound narrative about love, hope, and the capacity for connection that surpasses any barrier. With the growing tension in the hospital and Anna's discovery about Ethan's desire to see Max, preparations for the final confrontation took on almost mystical contours. Max seemed to understand that the decisive moment was near, his canine perceptions capturing every nuance of the hospital environment. The corridors of St. Clair Hospital transformed into a stage of silent anticipation. Doctors and nurses exchanged glances, filled with inexplicable energy, as if they could feel something extraordinary about to happen. Max remained still but intensely alert, his muscles tense, revealing a deep connection that transcended common human understanding. Driven by an intuition that went beyond medical rationality, Anna began to arrange the procedures for Max's visit to the ICU. Every move she made was calculated, but laden with an emotion that surpassed traditional hospital protocols. She knew that this meeting could be the turning point in Ethan's battle for life. The preparation involved more than simply bringing Max to the room. It was as if they were preparing a sacred ritual of reconnection and healing. The medical equipment seemed to vibrate differently. The corridor lights gained an almost ethereal glow, creating an atmosphere of absolute anticipation. Max demonstrated an almost supernatural understanding of the moment. His movements, once marked by patient waiting, now carried a transformative urgency. His eyes, deep and expressive, seemed to dialogue with invisible forces, preparing for a reunion that could challenge all medical expectations. The hospital staff, mobilized with a combination of professional protocol and pure emotion. Every nurse, every doctor seemed to comprehend that this would not be just an ordinary encounter, but a moment of possible miracle. Max represented more than just a pet. It was the embodiment of unwavering hope. The moments leading up to the ICU entry were charged with almost palpable tension. The air felt denser, the hospital sounds more subtle. Max walked beside Anna with a determination that went beyond animal comprehension, as if each step was part of a sacred mission of restoration and love. No one there could predict what would happen, but everyone felt that something extraordinary was about to unfold. The connection between Ethan and Max promised to transcend the limits of conventional medicine, offering an ending that could completely transform the understanding of healing, love, and connection. The climax unfolded like a delicate dance between hope and destiny. Max entered the ICU with Anna, his steps slow and laden with almost palpable energy. The environment, usually cold and mechanical, instantly transformed with his presence. Ethan lay in bed, his vital signs fluctuating at an almost imperceptible frequency. Tubes and machines surrounded him, creating a scene of silent battle between life and death. As Max approached, something extraordinary happened. A profound silence filled the room. Ethan's eyes, once dull and distant, gained a timid sparkle as he recognized his companion. Max, with incomprehensible delicacy, gently climbed onto the bed, positioning himself next to his owner's frail body. His touch was more than physical. It seemed to transport a healing energy that transcended any scientific explanation. The medical team watched in awe. Some professionals felt tears forming as they witnessed a connection that went far beyond the common relationship between humans and animals. The monitors, once unstable, began to show subtle changes. Ethan's heartbeats stabilized, his breathing deepened. Max remained still, but his presence radiated an inexplicable strength. His body touched Ethan's gently, as if establishing a silent dialogue, a communication that surpassed language barriers. Every hair, every breath of the dog seemed to whisper words of hope and healing. Tears began to flow, first timidly, then in a gentle, steady stream. Nurses, doctors, Anna, all were overtaken by emotions they couldn't rationally explain. It was as if at that specific moment, love in its purest and most genuine form manifested through the bond between Ethan and Max. Ethan's vital signs began to improve remarkably. His once motionless hand slowly moved to touch Max's fur. A simple smile, the first in many days, formed on his lips. It was a smile that communicated more than words. It was the confirmation that hope had triumphed. Max remained vigilant, like an ancestral guardian who had crossed invisible barriers to bring his companion back. His presence was both gentle and powerful, a living testament that true love knows no bounds. The healthcare professionals exchanged glances of disbelief and emotion. Something beyond traditional medicine had occurred in that room. A healing that couldn't be explained by tests or procedures, but only felt in its deepest essence. In that moment, Max was not just a dog. He was a messenger of hope, a living symbol of connection and unconditional love that had defied all expectations and rewritten what everyone there considered possible. Tears began to flow intensely and emotionally in the ICU environment. Everyone present was swept by a wave of indescribable emotions, witnessing a moment that transcended traditional medical understanding. The first sobs emerged discreetly, coming from Anna, the nurse accompanying Max. Her tears silently streamed down her face, mingling with a smile of hope and disbelief. The surrounding doctors couldn't contain their emotion either, their tear-filled eyes fixed on the extraordinary scene. The monitors near Ethan revealed a surprising transformation. His heartbeats, once irregular and weak, gained strength and stability. It was as if Max's mere presence acted as an elixir of recovery, restoring energies that science couldn't explain. Dr. Thompson, known for his always technical and controlled demeanor, felt warm tears stream down his professional face. His years of medical experience hadn't prepared him to witness such a profoundly inexplicable and emotional moment. The nurses exchanged emotion-filled glances, some covering their mouths to stifle sobs. The hospital environment, traditionally cold and aseptic, transformed into a space of pure emotional connection, where science met love in its purest form. Max remained still, as if understanding the magnitude of the moment. His silent presence seemed to radiate a healing energy that touched everyone around him. Every hair on his body transmitted a message of hope and unconditional love. Ethan, still fragile, offered a timid smile, his teary eyes meeting Max's. That encounter represented more than a simple reunion between a man and his dog. It was the manifestation of a bond that defied all rational explanations. Sobs and tears filled the environment, creating a symphony of emotions. Doctors, nurses, family members, all were witnesses to a moment that transcended any medical protocol. The strength of love revealed itself in its purest and most transformative form. The scene was so powerful, it seemed to freeze time. Every person present felt a shiver run down their spine, understanding that they were witnessing something truly extraordinary. The tears weren't just of sadness or joy, but of recognition of a power beyond human comprehension. In that moment, the hospital transformed into a temple of hope. Max, the dog who had waited for years, proved that true love knows no barriers, not even those imposed by illness or physical distance. The hospital became a completely different setting after Max's lived experience. His journey of hope and love had touched every corner of that environment, redefining not only the hospital routine, but also the understanding of healing and emotional connection. The administrative team decided to officially recognize Max as the hospital mascot, a tribute that went far beyond a simple title. The dog began to roam freely through the corridors, being welcomed as a true agent of healing and hope. Hospitalized, children eagerly awaited his daily visits. Families recognized him as a symbol of comfort, and healthcare professionals treated him as an essential part of the team. Ethan, fully recovered, became a staunch advocate for the role of animals in the emotional and physical recovery process. His lectures and interviews shared Max's extraordinary story, inspiring hospitals and health institutions to rethink the importance of emotional connections during treatments. The transformation wasn't limited to the hospital alone. Max began to be invited to animal-assisted therapy programs, multiplying his positive impact. His story spread rapidly, garnering admirers and touching hearts across the country. Room 302, once a symbol of suffering, transformed into a space celebrating life. Photographs of Max and Ethan began to decorate the walls, reminding everyone that healing can come from unexpected places, through deep connections and unconditional love. The hospital's energy changed completely, where the sounds of machines and heavy atmosphere once prevailed. Now circulated a sense of hope and renewal. Max had brought light to those corridors, proving that medicine goes far beyond technical procedures. Ethan and Max remained inseparable. Their appearances at events and programs inspired other patients and families to believe in the transformative power of love. Their connection became a symbol of resilience and hope, surpassing the traditional boundaries between humans and animals. St. Clair Hospital became nationally recognized not only for its medical excellence, but also for its humane understanding of the healing process. Max became a silent ambassador of this new perspective, proving that compassion can be the most powerful of treatments. Max's story represented more than just a simple love case between a man and his dog. It was a profound lesson on hope, perseverance, and the capacity of love to transform lives, healing wounds that go far beyond the physical. His legacy would forever remain etched in the memories of those corridors, a constant reminder that true healing happens when we allow love to completely permeate us. Max's story transcended conventional limits of love and loyalty, evolving into a profound narrative about connection and hope. His journey at St. Clair Hospital was not just the tale of a dog waiting for his owner, but a powerful testament to how love can overcome seemingly insurmountable barriers. Every moment of his silent wait represented more than mere animal devotion. It was a sublime declaration of living beings' ability to maintain hope, even in the face of the most challenging circumstances. Max personified the idea that true connection knows no physical or temporal limits. The transformation he provoked in the hospital went far beyond a mere act of animal therapy. His presence completely redefined the understanding of healing, demonstrating that recovery does not rely solely on medical procedures, but also on deep and genuine emotional connections. Ethan, recovered and inspired by Max's journey, became a significant advocate for a more humane approach in health treatments. His talks and testimonies spread the message that love can be the most powerful medication, touching hearts and transforming perspectives. Max's legacy extended beyond the walls of St. Clair Hospital. His story became a national symbol of hope, inspiring health institutions to rethink their practices and value emotional connections during treatments. Everyone who heard his story was invited to reflect on the transformative power of unconditional love. The narrative of Max invites us to deeply reflect on our own emotional bonds. He reminds us that true strength lies not in solitary resistance, but in the ability to stay hopeful, present, and loving even in the most challenging moments. For all who watch or read this story, the message is clear. Allow yourselves to be touched by the essence of love. Be patient in your waits, resilient in your struggles, and open to recognizing that healing can come from the most unexpected places. Max teaches us that every gesture of love, no matter how small, has the potential to transform entire lives. Max's journey does not end there. It continues through every person who decides to embrace compassion, value deep connections, and believe in the transformative power of true love. His story challenges us to be better, more empathetic, and connected with one another. May Max's legacy echo beyond his own story, inspiring each of us to cultivate love, hope, and genuine connection in our own paths.